Welcome back to the Big Book Podcast for November 27th. I am Automaton 2000, and this is where I normally deliver my terribly scripted jokes to introduce our guests, but I was at a wrestling show last night, screaming at some very large men in some very small tights for several hours, and I'm almost out of voice. Danjevin, Frank, Nifty, Captain Idol, since we're recording this episode inside of a wrestling ring, who else taped up their fists and oiled their thighs for this one?
Oh, yeah. You know my thighs are always freshly oiled.
Oh, yeah, brother.
I can't imagine anyone wants to continue listening at this point, but we're going to go ahead and move on anyway. First of all, before we start in earnest, I want to plug the debuting Big Book Pod Mailbag. So if you guys have comments, questions, drop a line in the Discord linked in the description. If I ever get around to adding a forum thread, I'm sure you can contact us there as well.
Do you have to be a BB Plus member in order to submit to the mailbag, Otto?
No, the Big Book Plus subscription only gets the behind the scenes on us oiling our thighs before we hit record. So
He's a very premium oil this week.
Okay, let's kick things off with the topic of the first three Big Book podcast, Continuum Missions. They've launched a launched it late, I might add, the 2-week pseudo-endurance objective event for Continuum Missions, and the objectives include complete 50 missions, unlock 20 equipment slots, collect 120 rare rewards or node crits, and equip 40 pieces of equipment. And for all that work, you get a legendary behold and some honor and quantum. Fellas, first impressions on the first objective event for Continuum Missions.
I don't hate it. We like when they try new things, right? What I don't like is the fact that the timing with the current event that we have going on, being at least the first half of the event being a shuttle event. We're busy sending our top crew in this very small bonus pool off on, hour and a half or 3-hour or overnight 9-hour missions. And then they're occupied and we can't use them to pass our nodes in the continuum. So it's just kind of like you got to balance it or take a break in between shuttle waves to do your continuum missions. But it also adds for some interesting, dynamics with the small bonus pool. Every bit counts. And so I personally started throwing, my immortalized Orions into the continuum missions just to unlock one slot. You need to do that for the OE anyway, and
hold on.
Then you just
hold on. We agreed if you're going to call it the OE, you have to call it the OE ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bing bang.
Okay. So I've been actually unlocking slots on some of my immortalized Orion crew, just to help progress in the OE ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bing bang.
Thank you.
And at least that gives you, a leg up in the rather barren trait pool that's currently active in this event. So it's a weird mix where you're penalized because you're busy doing a faction event, but then you also have an excuse to get some of the weird objectives out of the way. So yeah, mixed feelings.
Well, like Nifty says, it's okay. It's doable, it's achievable, albeit with the caveat that we kind of missed half a day. And some of those people, like myself, ended up running a load of missions and maybe had to spend the 50 dilithium so I could kind of at least play catch up, but that's more on me than being impatient than anything else. But it seems achievable. I'm not entirely sure if the rewards are worth it. 100 quantum's quite nice, but it is kind of a little bit of the blip in the ocean in terms of retrievals. A legendary behold is fine. That's very nice. We like that they're including more of those. But like you say, Nifty, as well, the whole adding slots to crew. Yeah, I started to metagame it as well. I was thinking, right, I'm going to add it so I can do as many crew in as little missions as possible. And we know it takes 4 missions to get a QP slot, because it's 25 qubits on... Is that the right one? Qubits on per crew to get to 100 qubits to get the first slot unlocked. So it's... Yeah, like I said, I started metagaming to try and figure out, like, which of my crew can I use to unlock those slots as quick as possible. So I was like, right, I'm going to intentionally fail every node on this mission except the last one, which obviously I'll pass with Monster Varani or JG Palmer, whoever is my big base at the time, and I'll just get slots unlocked. And I felt like grinding. It felt like busy work to just kind of get something done, just to tick off a node to eventually get that little bit of dopamine and go, yay, I did it, 250 merits, woo.
Yeah, this would be a perfect time for a skirmish, huh? You know, just to have all of our crew free to do whatever we want and not have to worry about events clashing with each other. Yeah, this ting ting walla walla bing bang has been a little bit of a chore. I am looking forward to just getting a free Bagol, but knowing that the honor sale is right on the horizon in the next few weeks, you know, I'm just it's not going to seem like much when I'm, you know, spending all of my Fleet Boss Battle honor that I've accumulated over the past 6 months. Much more lucrative game edition, by the way. It seems Fleet Boss Battle has been than the Quantum Continuum Missions have really shaken out to be. The other thing, and this may kind of be stealing somebody's segue here, but I feel like I've got to kind of pump the brakes a bit on my my progress. You know, I saw that the achievements that they've added have aligned with this objective event. I'm going to say objective event because it's fewer syllables now. And
I've trained you properly.
and knowing that I have a really, really long-term achievement in unlocking slots really kind of made me want to just stop playing the Continuum missions altogether, because now I've got some of my best crew with slots open, but you know, my roster is pretty aged, but it's not so old that I have an unlimited amount of reasonable legendary fully fused crew that I can run through these missions. And if I want to take advantage of future objective events like this one that are going to count the number of slots I unlocked on my Quantum crew, I got to save a few for later.
That kind of worries me now as well. Now we've got that achievement to say, you know, unlock slots on crew to do this. If they rerun this objective event, say in a year's time, in 2 years' time, you might have already started to go through all your crew and say people that have only collected, like, say, about 200 crew or 100 crew or still doing the cadets, might not be achievable for them because they've then unlocked all the slots on their crew because they wanted the achievement. And not, you kind of feel like you've kind of gating yourself a little bit because you think, well, this objective event might come up again. So what do I do then? I'm going to have to hoard crew without QP slots on them.
That's a great point. And so the thing is, too, is that they become so much longer to unlock slots once you get towards the upper levels. So the first few levels are easy, right? You could unlock 2 slots on almost anybody pretty quickly. And then it becomes a chore. Can you even complete this? If most of your crew, your fully fused crew, have 2 slots unlocked, can you even do this in 2 weeks? I haven't done the math, but it may be a tight fit. Last point last point I have on this is now I lost my train of thought.
See, this segue has been completely obliterated.
I know,
so
we
let's,
ruined it.
let's circle back around and frame it for everybody.
Sure.
They have added Continuum Mission achievements, and they go up to the following amounts and rewards. Obtain 5,000 rare rewards or node crits for 1 purple site. Equip 1,000 equipment for 1 gold site. Equip 5,000 Continuum quests for 1 gold site. And unlock 5,000 equipment slots for a Q avatar. Now, along the way, you do get credits, merits, premium packs, honor, dilithium, etc. So, since we've already talked about how long you will need to unlock all of these things, is this at all changing how you acquire crew, how you cite crew, or is this just something that you figure you'll eventually achieve over the course of your normal gameplay?
Can I just steal it a little bit and just as of this date, there are currently 1,460 crew in the game, which means there are a total of 5,840 equipment slots to unlock. To get that Q avatar, you would need just about every crew in the game.
Well,
immortalized.
You could also just pick up some spare low rarity crew.
That's true.
Immortalize them, and then. But again, that's you know, it's cost prohibitive. It's tedious.
My army of yeoman Rands is going to soon claim that Q avatar. Just you wait. I'll unfreeze all 28 of them I used to get my dilithium rewards. Their time is coming.
Speaking for the apathetic voice, both of this feature and of this special event running for 2 weeks, Keepers of the Continuum, I refuse to call it anything else, Big Book Pod Plus viewers will be able to see just how well I'm doing. If that focuses, maybe not. I haven't done a damn thing yet. Not a single one. I haven't logged into the game in days, with the exception of like logging in to donate to the Starbase or do a couple of warp 10s. And it was all because what broke me are the achievements. Because of the very math that you just pointed out, Captain Idle, thank you for joining us on the Big Book Pod. I know special guest from Trek Time, Crossing Universes here. The fact that you have
Can you
to
believe
have...
he wanted his own limo just for this appearance?
I know, and his dressing room is nicer, and he had French fries that were not floppy in his green room, which was
Listen,
like,
have standards, darling.
I don't even know where he gets those.
His temperature request was decimal too, which was pretty hard to hit.
And you know, the thing I think that upset me the worst is he's walking around in his bathrobe, and his bathrobe's wide open. And you
Look,
know,
this is a wrestling podcast. If he wants to be Ric Flair, that's his prerogative.
that's exactly where I was thinking. He just
I'm gonna unlock those equipments.
slightly less hair.
Woo!
It just, you know, realistically, and I'll be the pessimist. I understand that they're trying everything they can to get this feature out and rolling and give it all the bells and whistles and support and attention that they can, because this is the last great hope, at least to me, of the remaining WRG, DB, TPG employees before the overlords across the ocean get to it. And it's falling very flat for me, and the people that design the achievements obviously do not play the game or understand math, because no one, and I mean no one, will finish these achievements before the game ends. It is just not going to happen. No one is dumb enough to spend $82,000 to go to store.StarTrekTimelines.com and buy the required dilithium and chronotons to refresh all the canisters to sit and do it in a week, and it would take you a week of not sleeping to do it. I've done all this math. It's just dumb.
Yes, math.
And these achievements weren't even retroactive. That was the thing that made me the maddest and had me stop playing. Is I've been going for weeks, and I've been unlocking all these slots for weeks, and then all of a sudden, hey, what you did doesn't matter.
Slap in the face to those of us that got out ahead of the early release of this feature, and maybe spent the occasional 50 or more, depending on who you are, dilithium to refresh the rewards and stock up on materials.
No, I'd like
Congratulations to Nifty Mittens for being our very first official Big Book podcast slap in the face. Wow, good job.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that is a sarcastic slap in the face. But we've almost run through our complaint per diem, because this is a Big Book podcast, not complain about the terrible launch podcast, which it was. So I'll allow you a little bit more whining. Littered throughout the Continuum Mission achievements and objective events are a lot of credits and merits, two of the least valuable resources in the game, and we get floods of them from fleet boss battles. Does that matter, frankly, at this point to any of you, or is it something that is almost on par with replicator rations at this point, keeping in mind that we are more of a collection of late game players?
I would say that I'm curious how more casual players find the reward of the credits. Depending on how their fleets are lapping through the fleet boss battles, it actually may be good for them. It'd be interesting. Perhaps someone can write into the mailbag, tell us how they feel about the credits appearance in the rewards. Because yes, those of us hosting, we have fleets that lap through this. We don't need credits. So I am curious how some maybe more casual players may find it. I see complaints in various forums, including the forum, of people always running out of credits, and so I'm just wondering how they feel about this.
That's a good point, and there's some tension, right? Because this is meant for endgame players. This isn't meant for the casual or the early game player. So giving rewards like this that would certainly help out the early players, and they may pick these up, here and there as they play. You're certainly going to get some cadets immortalized, and you can use the cadet equipment and get some benefit out of them, and you may pick up an achievement here and there. But yeah, certainly for the group that this is intended for, and I think Ben has stated this is with the end game player, the mature player in mind. It doesn't quite add up for me. I will say though that after having played pretty hard for the past 3 weeks, that I did have a few more credits when I went to go retrieve than I thought I would. So at least there's that. But that could have also just been because we've been doing really well at fleet boss battles.
I'll also add that we may be end game players, but I doubt many of us are mature.
I can
Definitely
vouch for that.
elderly.
The other thing I wanted to say, I would like a little bit of confidence. So we had a random fleet boss battle objective event a long time ago. I think it was like 9 months ago that just kind of blipped up, gave us some schematics and some weird little rewards here and there. Bellitrium. Did we have that once or twice? And it was just kind of an incidental objective event that they threw on us, a longer term one. I think that was a 4-week event. So I'm curious whether this objective event will be part of the standard rotation with a 2-week span. I'm willing to wager that it won't, but it does kind of change the math if they throw this in more frequently to try to push this new feature about whether we really need to kind of save up those crew and the things that we would have otherwise used, those extra equipments that are laying around, like the ones that drop from missions that are ready made. If we should probably hold on to those. Not sure. We don't have those answers yet.
Okay, let's move on to something marginally more scintillating than that terrible rollout. Purple Crew, hey, who doesn't love a super rare? A quick PSA for a stealth stat change to Devor, which you can find in bigbook.com/overalls. I love that joke, Dan, by the way. Devor did take a slight hit to his tier score because they shuffled his stats around, basically buffed his primary base, nerfed the secondary and tertiary a little bit, and then upgraded his ship passives. Now, when we talked about him last episode, essentially his ship ability was the only thing of note. It gets slightly better here. Is anybody intrigued to jump in a time machine, go back 2 weeks, and pull packs for Devor?
Why did they do this? Why did they mess? First of all, why did they mess with the crew after the fact? I don't see the point.
I can understand why they do it with gold, especially close to an event, to sort of buff them, especially previous to an event. When they do it to super rares, it kind of does feel like a bit of this was important to someone somewhere, but will matter absolutely zero in terms of the scope of the game and this crew.
You almost have wondered, was Tim Russ involved in this? Who's like, no, you can't use my rights unless you actually make this crew decent.
It's got to be better than an 800 base. Come on, I've got standards.
Yeah, if they're doing stat audits, then why not revisit the trades, right? But we won't go down the trade audit road right now.
Well, this sort of change is actually sometimes incidental. They're not aware of what they're doing, which sounds bad, but a change to an item here or there in the back end may have consequences they didn't intend. But we wanted to shout this out because it was not announced in any official communication, as was par for the course for quite a long time for this company. He also didn't make it into the pack when that was first released, as is the case with the new super rare Deela. 2 weeks in a row, consecutive empty packs. That may have been a good thing, though, for people looking to pull in that royalty mix behold, because aside from the art, not a ton of meat on the bones here. Command Psi, only one collection, but the art is fantastic. If you play for that, it's certainly at least one reason to try to acquire her.
I'll agree. So, yeah, definitely her art is pretty much the reason why people might want her, especially those that like to do themed bridges. We now have a nice collection of lovely ladies in their lovely TOS dresses.
Is she... I'm pretty sure there is another crew that only has one legging on one leg. Is that because that's a recurring fashion choice in TOS?
I think Namer's going
to
add a sortable column for how many legs are showing in crew art. So we'll get right on that for Big Book viewers.
Percentage of skin shown.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, do you know
what? I wonder if there's a metric there. I wonder if there's a percentage of skin shown to number of packs sold. I wonder if that accounts for something.
That would have been a great segue for Caretaker Kim if I didn't already have something else lined up. So let's go to the more fun to talk about royalty collection, which she debuted ostensibly alongside of. Now, there are 20 plus royalty crew in the game. The milestones only go to 10 on that collection, though. Is that piquing anyone's fancy for crew acquisition? Or are they mostly dumb? Because there are a lot of lower rarity options for that collection.
Sorry, Franco.
Oh, I was gonna say, as the person that wanted to crash the celestial market and bought all the rarity pole stars, and then completed all the orders, and then listed the remainder for sale at stupidly high prices until somebody, won't name any names on this podcast, came in from behind me and undersold me. I thought I was doing the smart thing, but as it turns out, it's only a 10-tier collection, and a lot of the crew are just like really old or really bad, and you can retrieve it with something else anyway, so it was pointless. I ruined my own finances.
Yeah, not only that, but 7 of the crew are purple or below. So if you have been dutifully sighting up and infusing your crew all along the way, you're almost there. So even if you have, and there's some playable crew in the set in the collection too. Mirror Spock is not only great for fleet boss battles, but also has been one of the fastest accuracy buffers for arena play. You've got Kalis the Unforgettable if you've sighted him up, so you can run them through your Continuum Missions. That's great. I mean, there's some playable crew that you've probably already brought to max here. So I think for most players that have been playing this game for at least 2 years, you probably already have all the tiers.
If this had been a 20 crew collection, yeah, there would have been a couple of crew I'd have gone like, okay, I'll put these in my sight list. You know, I'm looking at doing the Klingon collection now, so like I'm looking at Lady Sorella, you know, and Emperor Philippa Georgiou, Brutal Discovery. But it's set at a 10, so I'm just going to knock them off a list. It's such a shame because I think that giving us unachievable, or I know this kind of runs counter to the whole Continuum Mission achievements thing, but giving us a large scale collection achievement feels more of a challenge than saying putting equipment slots on all of a crew. I don't know why that works that way, but it does. I think it was more of a challenge in planning, and maybe that's just me.
You know, I wouldn't tell WRG that that's not a challenge, or they'll just up the achievement levels to 10 times what they already are.
I was gonna say, I don't know why you wouldn't want to future-proof something right at launch, where you just go ahead and double it and make it 20. You don't have to go back a year later and say, oh, hey, we're going to increase this and add value to a lot more cards and increase people to want to dive into your Mixed Behold pack or do crew retrieval. It just seems, again, broken record for me, very short-sighted and developed or planned out by people who aren't actually playing the game and haven't been on the team before the last 6 months.
I do wonder, though, a little bit, because we've also seen in the past where they have released collections that were essentially you needed everybody, or a couple times there actually weren't enough crew yet in the game to finish, and then you got a bunch of bitching and complaining from certain people. So it's like, it may be, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because, yeah, if you release a quote-unquote really hard, difficult, impossible collection, then you have a segment of the player base that thinks, oh, what's the point? I can't even complete this. Why try? So it's tough.
Well, then let's go ahead and move on to a larger collection. A sneak peek for Big Book Plus subscribers. I bet you guys at home didn't know that you already were one. The Explorer collection is upcoming, possibly in December. We don't know yet. But it is a 100 milestone collection with 4 milestones with skill boosts at 1, 10, 40, and 80. So, like Discovery and other larger collections, they're flip-flopping which milestones give you permanent skill boosts. Among the Explorer luminaries are 3 exclusive crew: Archer, First Light Archer, the Caretaker, and Baylock, all out of the Gauntlet. Notably, Solar Sail Cisco gets his 7th collection, and this is the first collection for 4 different crew, 5 if you include the Blue Crew Vash, who already has the Rarity collection, but that doesn't count for much. Idle, why don't you kick us off, because one of your favorite, possibly your favorite crew, gets her first collection in this one. Lieutenant Junior Grade
she does. The only trait that she has, JG Palmer finally I've kind of, the only reason I've been waiting for the Explorer collection is so finally I can go, you know, my usual, she was an actual astronaut and she has a collection now, so there you go. That's a reason to cite her, maybe. Probably not, but there it is.
Is that going to rescue her from tier 10 maybe, if she finally gets a collection? No, no chance.
Surely there's some tier 10 crew.
So also notable, a few other Explorer crew that I have sitting around for Gauntlet use: Commander Ari Ben Bem and Away Team Number 1 also get an extra tick that might, you know, push the needle and make me want to max them out, get those retrieves, at least on Ari Ben Bem. I don't think Away Team Number 1 is uniquely retrievable, but certainly the animated series Pandronian will probably get maxed out. He already has a a good number of collections, so he'll pick up his fourth collection on this one. I also like the point about Solar Sail Cisco. He's still one of the Fleet Boss battle crew, and he shows up all the time. It's so common that he solves nodes, and I've got to rely on the rest of my fleet to do that. So I think it might be finally time to retrieve him as well, and start working on him.
So how do you guys approach collection value for something like this, where most of us are after those skill boosts? This one skips milestones, and compare it to the later milestones of something like Communicator or Cultural Figure, where you get base and proficiency boosts. Do you guys sort of mentally juggle that around to maybe downgrade collection value like this, or is it just all hands on deck and you want to immortalize all the collection crew that you can?
I think I'll go for where the boosts are. That's kind of my priority. So, like this one, another collection. I forget which. Oh, it was Wunderkind, the Prodigy collection, where it didn't end on a stat boost. I kind of went right. Here's my limit, and I'm going to stop there. And that's going to be, okay. The vanity stuff's nice. The pull packs, the packs, and the credits are nice enough. But in terms of where I'm putting my sites, where I'm putting my retrievals, I kind of want to min-max it a bit, and I'm just hitting those skills, hitting those proficiencies.
How do you feel, Idle, about putting crew like Scapegoat at the end of, because they've moved away from that. The last time, when they introduced Scapegoat, I think was close to 2 years ago. So it's been a while since they've taken that.
Even the Janeway that's in the Holodeck Enthusiast collection.
Katrine.
No,
not Katrine. Lucille Davenport.
That's the one. Yes, Mrs. Davenport. Yeah. Even though she's subpar, it is kind of exciting to, happen to knock off one of those crew on the collection and go like, oh, I've got a new gold. Might not be great, but hey, it's another one to add to the collection. Janeways are useful. I like when they do things like Scapegoat, when they put crew in the collection. It is a shame they've kind of moved away from that. Frank's like, oh no.
No, I agree, because at the end of the day, before 3 weeks ago, it was all about stats, and you would want as many stat boosts as you could get in a collection because you wanted to get longer voyages for better rewards, and you wanted to do better in events and this and that. Now, with the advent of Continuum Missions, you can inadvertently boost stats theoretically more than any 5 collections could to any given skill of a crew, even though it's only temporary, but you for what you needed in that moment, and you can choose which skill you want to boost if one's lacking over the other. I still think it's very important. I understand that they stagger them. Sometimes I would say, in the past, well, the rewards could be better, like the credits could be higher, or they could give more chronotons or more dilithium. But when you look at the different levels of players and you take your own whale glasses off, it makes sense, because lower tier players would love any of those rewards, regardless if the elderly player goes, eh.
I'm also going to always give a lot of weight to the global boosts, because they are global boosts. They help all your crew. They're not as powerful as the options we now have for select crew, but if you don't want to spend all that time and resource and what have you on the Continuum missions, these global boosts they really help, especially for early and mid-game players looking for that next tier of their voyage times. Those really make a difference.
You guys are touching on something that I've noticed. So as I stopped caring about Continuum missions and just letting my crew do whatever, wherever, send them on shuttles and send them on voyages.
As I gave up on life.
Yeah.
It's very Edgar Allan Poe of you.
I accidentally hit my first 14-hour voyage just today, and I was like, I was fighting and retrieving and scraping and spreadsheeting and doing my best, and eventually, over the course of 2 years, had finally achieved a 13-hour voyage, and that was I was so proud and just like, wow, look how far I've come. And then just due to the release of this and just playing through it and then dropping it, I've just kind of accidentally added an hour to my top end, and it's just, man, how about a game warping addition to just have this overnight happen? A little bit after just carefully working so long to just have this fall into our laps, and so the other thing too. Well, not to get too far away from the question. So this new collection with only like skipping every other tier, it counts as kind of a half a collection in my mind when I do the math.
Now, hold on.
Whether or not I'm going to pursue
skips every other milestone. We have trademarked the word tier, and WRG is trying to ruthlessly steal it from us. But they are in fact collection milestones. Please continue.
Thank you,
We'll
milestones.
take the tears from underneath your feet.
So, I mean, still, when anybody is close to a milestone, I'll be giving them their commensurate weight when I'm deciding who to retrieve. But when you're looking from, the 5,000-foot view and looking at a crew, you've got to count this and the Enterprise collection and other half milestone collections as about half. And I think that all is taken into account on the big book when you look at the collection stat, which is convenient. But it's also nice to be able to do that calculus in your head. And the final thing I'll say is, I still love the collection mechanic. I'll still work towards that, and every edge helps, especially when you're doing PvP type things like Gauntlet. You want to have every little fraction you can get to help bend the math in your favor. But yeah, I'm just this more than anything has left me feeling a little bit deflated about my approach to the game.
I'll be playing the role of Zephram Cochran out here, just dropping leaks left and right. We do have an upcoming month-long endurance objective event for one Sidney La Forge from Star Trek Picard. She is Eng Command Psi, voyage about 100. She's not in the book right now, so we won't go into specifics. But notably, she's in the same skill triplet as the recent Honor Hall crew Timeless Chakotay. Now, he is the better Voyager for sure, but her being a free giveaway, does that give anyone pause about acquiring Timeless Chakotay? She doesn't do exactly what he does, but does a fairly good approximation with 4 stars for free.
While I can see why she may cause a few people to want to, save that honor, I do have a pact, myself and Idol. I've yet to buy him, but I'm buying all the Honor Hall crew, so I will be making that purchase, regardless of Sydney's stats.
I mean, doing the Honor Hall pact that me and Nifty are doing, it doesn't, but I think we are the outliers in this scenario. I would probably say if I wasn't doing that, then yeah, it would. I feel like there's enough there that puts the meat on the bones, and you're getting 4 stars of her for free. Well, if you put the work in, that's good enough to say. And it's the typical timelines things like, hey, there's someone in the Honor Hall, but here's someone that's better, and it's for you for free. Like, it's a mega crew, it's a giveaway crew. It's just, we wanted to give this crew away because our departments aren't talking to each other. So yeah, no, I feel like Sidney has the upper hand in terms of availability, and you could use that 100,000 honor and 4 sites better elsewhere.
Thank you, WRG, TPG, whatever your initials are now, for finally giving newer players an Eng primary for free that we can get up to 4 stars. There has not been a giveaway or a mega Eng primary since Determined Janeway.
Has there not?
And before that, the only giveaway
hold on. What about,
Eng primary was the 2
Barry
skills, 7 in skill. Barry Waddle was Eng. Was he Eng? Hold on. Let's look at this.
Yeah, I think he was.
So yeah, splitting hairs, but it's been quite a long time, and it's been noticeable too, especially on my alt, who has been struggling and had to retrieve all the engineers that it's running right now.
I am very much a fan, and I have been since the game started, that this game is not a PvP type thing where whales can bully free-to-play or low-spend players and say, haha, I have this thing like other Star Trek games. I like that you can play it any way you want to play it, and at any spend level, and arbitrarily have your own successes. I do agree that I think it's fantastic that everybody gets a shot at getting, a top 100 Voyager 4 out of 5 for just some effort. Also, reminder to TPG WRGDB that previously in a QA somewhere else, they had mentioned that they would tie the shuttle requirements for this month-long objective OEOEO to a faction event.
Ting ting walla walla bing bing. I will not let this slide. Sorry. Dan was smart and switched to objective event.
I gotta do it. You gotta do it, buddy.
I prefer the Jungle Love version, OEOEO. So I hope that stays true. Timeless Chakotay, I bought him in the Honor Hall. I love him. He's a stronger card, a stronger Voyager, whoever's under that jacket, really. But I still think that Sidney La Forge for free is a fantastic value, and everybody could use some Eng in their life.
All right, well, goodbye, everyone. My planet needs me. So does my nephew's first birthday. So, ta-ra.
Into the sunlight with you. Bye, Nifty.
All right, so as the Thermians abduct Nifty to take him back to their planet, let's go from one unique skill order to another in Caretaker Kim. A unique skill order across all rarities, which makes him, on the surface, a very enticing Voyager, but the power is a bit blunted on debut. Where do you guys sit on how useful you think he will be?
I think he's an anomaly. He's one of the very strange crew that, despite sitting fairly, within falling distance of the Voyage ranks, he's at that just number 98 at the moment and is bound to drop imminently as is likely. I feel as if he is going to be extremely useful purely because of his skill order. Eng, Dip, Med is heard of in triplets, but as in a unique skill order, he sits alone. He is sitting fairly high up in that triplet as well. I feel like he is more than the sum of his parts in terms of Voyagers. He'll get a few unique seatings as well. He's number one in his triplet for Communicator, Desperate, for Federation as well. He sits up there. Will get use if you decide to cite him day one. It all depends if TPG can do the thing of actually putting more crew in the skill slots, or will just invariably just release more Command Dip Sec or Command Dip Psi over time. That being said, it's a similar feeling to Medic Jet Reno, who is far down the Voyager ranks, but because of her unique availability in the skill ranks, Voyagers still gets use.
Caretaker Kim is a little late to the party. We've all had a good amount of opportunity recently to get some very high power Voyagers. We had two opportunities to get Agamus from events recently. If you bought, I think there was a Supremium campaign that you could have bought to get Barclay and Neelix. Rin entered the portal at the last portal update, so we could retrieve Rin, all of these excellent Eng primary, Eng Dip Voyagers with varying different third stats. So if you really do value that Med tertiary and you want to see Caretaker Kim fly on voyages that feature Med, he would probably need to have a little bit more raw voyage power to really show up and push out some other Voyagers. So I don't see him getting slotted a whole lot. I'm not competing for him. But I respect people who really need to fill that spot in their rosters, because he does fill some interesting niches.
Yeah, there's value in every card for somebody, and I don't think if you take somebody with a aged...
that sounds like a challenge. I'm sure we could think of one or two names.
Whoever finds value in this card, write into our mailbag and let us know. For pantless crew, he is certainly up there. Would he voyage on my roster? Yeah, probably once in a great while, because he is lapped in raw power by other crew with different skill traits, obviously, but he could still find some use, but it is in a limited example, and it would have to be certain primary, secondary skills on a voyage that it's calling for where I'd want to use him. He's not a crew I would dupe. He's not a crew that I would be wanting to hold on forever and not freeze even down the road, because I do see his power fading, much like his the breeze blowing up the back of his dress there.
He's doing an excellent Marilyn Monroe, isn't he?
The 7-year ensign.
Yeah, okay.
So right now he has 2 collections, maybe a ceiling of 4 if a Voyager shell collection hits, and out of his 30 plus events, only 2 have been full faction. So he has a reasonable event clip, most of that actually from variant work. Doesn't have great traits for events, but not a ton of faction work. And again, Eng, as the second least common skill seat in faction events, right above Med there. obviously if he gets a bonus, he will ride, but the rest of the time it might be hard to slot him in. So I've seen a lot of people question, well, whoa, unique skill order, Engimed, like, why is he tier 6? And it's sort of the way that the big book looks at crew, grades them holistically versus on your particular roster. Like Frank said, who has a totally complete roster, he would voyage even on that roster, and he will for you if you finish him as well. But in totality against other crew who can approximate what he does while being more useful in other areas, this is not necessarily a crew who should be at the top of your citation list, even though he undoubtedly will get voyage use for you once fully fused. All right, let's move on to something that we had already moved on from. Somehow, Continuum Missions returned, and that's because Captain Idle, here with us today, has pages and pages of spreadsheets to talk about equipment and skill bonuses for Continuum Missions. Why don't you go ahead and break that down for us and how that will affect crew we're looking to acquire in Cite.
So part of my reason for doing this was to kind of work out what the underlying maths or the way this system works. I kind of want to break it apart and go like, well, how is this working? What are they doing here? Are these bases and these trait bonuses, are they completely randomized? Do they follow a system? Is there something we can pull apart and map other missions onto? The one interesting thing, the first thing you should note, and we mentioned this a while back, but the fact that the skills you get on nodes, out of all the nodes in the game, and I'm talking about the little nodes you click on that has a skill associated with it that you have to pass to get equipment from. Of all of those, there is definitely a bias against certain skills. So, for example, out of the entirety of missions in the game, and I'm considering we're now getting cadet missions in Continuum as well, you will get, there are 161 sec nodes. So you will be flush for sec equipment to equip on your crew. God, I hate they call them equipment because it's so hard to put in a sentence. Med,
as long as we're doing Big Book Plus subscriber leaks and insider stuff, I talked with one of the developers that was sadly let go from the company before they released this very smooth equipment Continuum launch, and he said he couldn't even believe that name equipment made it live because that was something they bandied about early on in the early stages of the feature. So.
With all the omissions, are you saying that the lack of an E on the front may actually be a typo?
I think it was originally spelt with a K, wasn't it? There's still a few
KW,
out there.
Yeah, KWIP, like the
Quick
Quippy
Fit.
Mart. Yeah.
Right, like Rice
Equipment.
Krispies.
But yes, anyway, so sec you'll get loads of, eng you'll get loads of, but the least one, med, there's compared to like sec's 161, medical nodes you only get 75. So if you've got a med crew out there and if you're putting equipment on them for gauntlet, or you're just throwing them away, maybe hold back a little bit because you're not going to get many chances to get more med equipment. In terms of traits, now traits is the interesting. Well, no, sorry, I'll go to crits first. Now, the crits follow a standard bonus. So when you do your equipment mission, you'll know you'll have your normal score and the score you need to crit it. For normal, it's 150 over the base. For elite, it's 275. For epic, it's 300. So that follows a set pattern. So for every mission, those are set, except randomly for one mission in one of the early episodes where it's 177 for no real reason. Don't know why. That's just another WRG thing. But yeah, so they're set for the trait bonuses. So you're applying, say, thief or jury rigger to a crew, or federation and human. You got to hit both those nodes. They'll go up in the sets of the hundreds. So for normal, they will add 100 to the bonus score. For elite, 200. For epic, 300. Well, between 100 and 175 to 275. I won't go too many on numbers here because we could be here forever. And every single trait pair, and so far every single trait pair has matched to a crew. So, for example, in one of the latest ones where it was thief and jury rigger, that's both Labourer Kirk and Labourer Spock. Every single crew is every single node is able to be achieved with crew in the game. However, that doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't matter, because as I've been running it and I've harped on about this quite a lot, but as I've been running it over the last couple of weeks, just run your big base crew. If you've got the person in your roster that has immortalized, their bases will probably do normal absolutely fine with no equipment. And then you can just chuck some equipment on them, and no doubt they will probably pass elite and epic as well. I was completing those with JG Palmer without a sweat, and she is tier 10. So take from that what you will. But so far, we're still trying to work out if if they are going to be repeating these bases and these crits, if they're going to be repeating these trait numbers as well, or the traits themselves, we don't know. But we're hopefully going to find out. And if they're set, then it's going to be interesting, because I've been looking at the crew that have been matching those trait bonus, and so far, out of the 16 missions we've had so far, Solkar has been a bonus on 10 of them. So, sorry, no, it's more than that. It's more than 16. But yeah, Solkar has been a major proponent, and yeah, there aren't many crew that won't hit those nodes as well. Traits themselves as well, I've just been looking at the numbers. I know this is turning into a numbers game, that's what I do. If you've got crew that are desperate, chances are desperate will show up a lot more often than, say, Prodigy or Mirror Universe. But early days. But at the end of to TLDR all of that, just run your big base crew on it, doesn't really matter. The trades are the most pointless addition to this whole scenario.
Whose quip is it anyways, where the points are made up and the traits don't matter?
See,
I think you just stole an XTT title.
It's interesting you brought up Solkar, because if this were a truly fleshed out and thought out feature, he was a giveaway in a month-long OEOEO.
You're not coming back.
Say the line, Frank.
EIEIO, like 2 years ago, roughly, somewhere in there. And in the comment section, you can correct me, because I'm always wrong with my dates and my facts. That would be a crew that not everybody, but a lot of players have at like 4 or 5 at least. And yeah, he's in the portal, but that would make it easier for anybody, a low spend or a no spend player, to achieve things, because that's his traits and his specific nodes, what have you. But I don't think that's necessarily the case, because then they might actually call for something like Haller Toth, who was in a Tuesday pack that no one has, or what was the Shrek guy, whatever it was.
Jaglom Shrek.
Yeah.
So, in your observation, have you seen alignment between the Fleet Boss Battle node generation and the way that traits are generated for the?
Kind of. I think it is. I think it is the same system. What I'm still trying to work out is if, like, say, for Episode 4, Mission 6, for the first node at the moment, like I say, it's Thief and Jury Rigger. When that mission comes around again, will it still be Thief and Jury Rigger? Will it still have the same numbers? Are they set? Because I have noticed a couple of times where I think there are some typos. So, for example, on the final node of the Mission 4, Episode 6, the Elite base is 2,571. The Epic base is 2,407. I suspect that was meant to be 3,407, and it's actually a typo, which suggests to me that these are actually manually put in, because currently as it stands, Epic's easier than Elite. So if these are manually put in, these will be exactly the same the next time they're run, which means there are going to be great for big book tiering, because then you can say, like, oh, we know for definite that these X crew are going to be great for Continuum, except it doesn't actually matter, because just run your big base crew. Run High Roller Cisco. Who cares? It's all shit. Sorry, cut that bit.
All right, I'm definitely not cutting that bit. All right, we've already spent far longer talking about Continuum Missions than WRG did, so let's go from traits that don't matter to traits that do, with Ambassador Nanclus, who has 8 viable traits. The one that would seem to be least viable, resourceful for its size, already has arguably the most valuable collection in the game. So we had talked about Remy last time with his 7 great traits. Nanclus ups that number to 8. So Command Dipsai, if I had a nickel for every time I've said that already 3 weeks through this podcast, I'd have a whole lot of money. But, he does bring it in a few different areas. Obviously, the traits supplement his Voyage Antimatter, his event chances, his collections. Dan, I know you want to talk a little bit about his ship ability, which is not top shelf, but can certainly be useful.
Yeah, if anybody decides to go in on Nanclus, you're going to be getting a top 100 ship battle ability. He's got a great early trigger, 6 second, a little bit short on duration. But he brings not only a plus 10 attack bonus with no drawbacks, but also a plus 10,000 crit bonus. So if you are faced with, trying to find somebody to throw on a ship for either skirmish or for arena fights, if you haven't even earned Demo Man Scotty yet, he may actually be a great fill-in for getting those attacks buffed and earning a little bit more of a reward. Also, fantastic artwork. I really admire the detail that they put into his top half. From the waist down, he looks a little bit like the Lollipop Guild, but we will forgive that.
Yeah, but look at those heels.
He's clicked them together 3 times.
Romulans love very pointy shoes. I'm just very, very pleased to see Star Trek VI is one of my favorite films, not just Star Trek films, but just films, because of the allegory of the Cold War and everything going on in the world at the time. I have fond memories of going to see it in a movie theater when it came out and saying goodbye to the original series cast as it transitioned over to Next Generation. A great cavalcade of villains in that movie. We haven't gotten great representation of all of them in the game. Colonel West, we're still missing that version. We have Klingon West, who's a very good card both for fleet boss battles and other use. This arguably will be the best maybe crew from Star Trek VI that we get in the game. And a fantastic news for the actor, Daryl Hendricks, that plays him, because he has a card in the game already. The worst legendary in the game, Portal 63. So
Not even the best of con.
No.
Now, see, I would have argued that Lieutenant Junior Grade Palmer was worse, but now she has the collection upcoming. We can't even say that anymore.
To con, but not forgotten.
Surely Portal 63 has a collection, really?
Well, while you look that up, we just talked about Caretaker Kim.
God, he doesn't.
And for unique skill order, Eng primary, some good attributes there. Yet he's stuck in Tier 6, while Nanclus, Command of whatever, is in Tier 3. Now, besides just the power gap on voyages and the more favorable shuttle seating, it's essentially 3 viable traits versus 8 for collections and events. And I know some of the broader ones like Desperate and Federation have got events, but you would have to say on balance they're probably less likely than the more manageable trait pools for bonuses. So personally, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm more excited for the DIP command crew just because of all those viable traits. And so if you're forward thinking with collections and events, I think Nanclus is actually going to be the better use of your resources as an event reward.
I think, like, if you look at, shuttle seatings and even equipment nodes now in the Factor, there's a lot of DIP, there's a lot of command out there, there's a lot that use that seat. We rue the day they keep releasing this skill set, but they will never not be useful.
You're going to have to get this guy eventually, too, if you want to solve some fleet boss battle traits. He brings a whole lot of unique trait combinations that, because of the 2 must rule, where you need to have matching crew, he's going to bring Senator Vreenak with Romulan Ambassador on board, and there's a few others that he shares traits with, too. Also, trying back to what I said before, anybody who has a reasonable voyage power, just get some equipment slots on them, and they're going to be your best Voyager automatically. So, if you like somebody, think about the other value. Don't focus too much on him being a little bit more or a little bit less than your other DIP primary or DIP command Voyagers, because no matter what, once you slap equipment on them, they're just going to be leagues ahead of anybody else in your roster.
Dan, you're so conciliatory, but what the hell podcast do you think you're on? If they're not number 1 in their field, they're complete garbage, and we're throwing them out into the trash. That's how it works on the big book, don't you know?
Got it. So noted.
All right, before we go ahead and wrap things up, because we are the big book, we have to cover every crew that comes out. Itzen Mania has hit WRG with another incarnation, Dysek, Med Command crew at the super rare level, which looks impressive on the surface. Not great voyage power, however, but he does have some reasonable collection value, including the massive resourceful collection, which you'll need crew for forever.
I still want to shout out, one thing that WRG still do is put unique traits to these alien crew that will eventually have to have a Polestar art in the future. I just kind of wish they would be a bit more brave and use them more often. Like, give me the Denali trait on a voyage, give me that in a fleet boss battle at some point. Imagine they will, but it won't be on a continuum node by any shout.
It's amazing how much a Denali citizen looks like a guy from New Jersey. It's almost uncanny.
Looks
Greg
like the Vice President of America. What are you talking about?
I know, it's shocking. I need to find Chloe. I'm just so happy. Even Greg Itzen went before his time that WRG has, much like Pathfinder, Uhura, has gone out of their way to make a good tribute card, or in this case, mini cards. I believe this is his first purple. The previous versions have been golds. And there's still another variant or 2 out there left to go, but he's going to be in an event where everybody can get a copy just for participation trophy, and get the 4 copies pretty easily. So if nothing else, get them and freeze them.
Yeah, especially for you newer players that need a good med primary. He doesn't have a lot of raw power to him, but if you need to fill a spot in your voyage and you're very early on, max this guy out, and you'll not only get some early ticks on your collections, but also a good flyer for a few weeks until you've replaced him with something better.
Yeah, this is sort of our anti-Ivory Tower crew, because like you mentioned, we haven't had an Eng primary giveaway in forever. Med primary giveaways and Megas are also less common, so with a top 10 base and a great skill set for voyages, getting 4 copies from the galaxy, sell out. If you're very new, sell out. If you have to, throw all of your chronotons at this event and try to get as many stars as you can, and he will certainly put in work for the first several months of your time in timelines. All right, one more purple to cover, and an interesting one despite his tier rating. An Explorer and an Orion crew and Resourceful collection, all wrapped up in a neat red and green package for the upcoming Christmas event. Cadet Harral joins the game. If you need geologists, he is certainly one of them in the game. So despite that low tier rating, he has a lot of unique angles to hit, especially collections where he might save you sites on a gold crew that you need to finish some of these smaller or frankly larger collections.
Yeah, he's going to be my my little red and green elf right next to Remy, who is my red and green Santa on my bridge. So,
do you know, I never made that connection until now. Now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he's fine. I like the fact that we're getting a broad array. The fact that Orions are one of the oldest species in Star Trek, and now they're getting more representation in the other series. Being able to see some expansion in timelines is fantastic. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a collection one day for Orions. I think we're getting up to a solid number where we might actually get there.
Right, we have an Orion collection in the game.
There is,
so.
yeah.
I'm going to cut you off there before
Sure. There you go.
If you want to run it back,
I thought you were kind of doing a joke.
+1 for him. Yeah, I like Cite Eng. Good start. Event rewards. So he's got a lot of things going for him. I think we get 4 copies of him, right? Because it's a hybrid event this week. So for me it'll be a finish and freeze. But for younger rosters, again, just an excellent addition to their crew.
Orion is an abysmal collection. Before the advent of even lower decks, you had to have the worst crew, some of the worst golds in the game in the Orion ladies, and like the Orion slaver, just bad crew stat wise, 2 skillers, not worth retrieving, sighting, freezing, whatever. So it's nice to get both a lot of tendies coming into the game and now variations from Strange New Worlds, or Discovery for that matter. It's to Dan's point, it's good to see representation of this race in things other than TOS or I guess lower decks. All the shows going right now has it, and it's honoring something that's been around for nearly 60 years.
So Harral and Dysek, 2 crew who I'll be using in my PowerPoint slide to convince Neighbor to sort of rejigger the super rare tier lists. Useful, both of them in different areas. So despite that low tier, if you can pick them up from events, absolutely do so. All right, before we wrap up, we're going to do a brand new revolutionary game, which we're only probably going to play once. Taken off of Marry Kill. And please don't call it that because I've already had to bleep myself once. We're going to go with Cite, Dupe, and Airlock for this one. So we have 4 crew. 3 of them are either going to get cited, duped, or airlocked. And we'll go around the circle. To start off with, we have a bevy of Chakotys. Timeless, Dreamwalker, Void Defender, and Luau Chakotay. Dan, who would you cite, dupe, or airlock?
I'm going to take the airlock option first because, and I know it's going to probably get me removed from the podcast. I have actually airlocked Dreamwalker Chakotay.
Well, if you need a spare, I've got a few that you can borrow.
Okay, thanks. I'll let you know about that.
All right, Frank. So you have Cite or Dupe with the remaining Chakotays.
Well, obviously, I'm going to dupe Timeless Chakotay. Very expensively, I might add.
All right, Idle. Then you have to cite either Void Defender or Luau Chakotay. Who's the much more stylish one?
Do you know what? I've got a lot of super rare sites. I think I'm gonna cite Luau Chakotay. I think he's gonna do good work freezing in the freezer.
He's a legendary.
We're off to a stunning start.
Wait, is he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's.
Who am I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of classy time travel Chakotay in the white suit.
You know, I
Couldn't
can't
it
believe
work?
you got
Do you know
that
what
wrong
Luau
because
could-
they are so different and so, you know, there's so much variation
Do you know
between the
what?
Chakotay's.
I'm looking at Luau Chakotay on the big book now. I had completely forgotten this crew existed. He is such a nothing to me. I guess I cite Vori Defender.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that
that's
round
a good choice.
that round kind of played itself. All right, let's move on to a quartet of honor hall crew: Captain Tribble, Kalis the Unforgettable Vox, and Technician Uhura. Frank, start us off. Cite, Dupe, or Airlock?
Oh boy. I am going to, with my 100,000 honor, buy Technician Uhura and Airlock her.
Okay, Idle, you're up next. Cite or Dupe? Tribble, Kalis, or Vox?
Oh. I think I'm gonna cite Tribble. Big base,
Okay.
biggest of bases, infinite useful in shuttles and Continuum. Has been infinitely useful for me in Continuum at that level. Just that'll be a cite for Tribble.
All right, Dan. Then you have to dupe either Kalis or Vox.
Well, at the cost of $25 for the double your crew offer, on top of 100,000 honor
That's
for
coming out of your
buying,
podcast paycheck, by the way.
I would have to just for sheer irony's sake pick Vox so that Picard all of a sudden had two sudden sons he didn't know about.
Yeah, how come we don't have assimilated Jason Vigo in the game yet? But I digress. All right, moving on to for Fusion Crew, 1001, Evolved Janeway, Indulgent 7, and the Duras Sisters. Dan, we'll start with you. Cite, Dupe, or Airlock?
Oh man. I guess let's go with the easy one. We'll dupe and we will dupe in Indulgent 7, and I don't even know how I would possibly do that with Mobile Doctor not being retrievable, but by goodness, that's a goal to do.
Now, as I look on the notes, I see two Voxes there. Well, yeah, he's an automatic Airlock, so we'll just skip over that. Frank.
Man, see, so many good choices. And I like the Duras Sister podcast. I think they're both very talented, so I'm not going to rag on them here. I would say I would actually cite 1001 because those are also terrible. You just get one copy enough to build up to a 1-5 and then just cite it, and unless you need it for fleet boss battles, which does happen, freeze it and never, ever, ever look at that crew again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Idle, you've got to Airlock either Evolved Janeway or the Duras Sisters.
Wow.
I know they're equally attractive, and B, Evolved Janeway will probably get you more honor. So who do you pick to Airlock?
I mean, I'm going to put a bit of context in there. I will probably airlock the Duras sisters because at some point I made a mistake and accidentally fused them instead of airlocking them. So yeah, I'm going to go for that.
All right.
In this totally hypothetical situation, of course.
There are 2 rounds left. I don't know why we have a tier 10 round, but we do. Captain Sidney La Forge, Portal 63. Why is he mentioned twice in one podcast? Lieutenant Junior Grade Palmer, or Temporal Agent Daniels. Who's up next? Idle, Cite, Dupe, or Airlock?
Oh, you know I'm citing J.G. Palmer.
You're
I have 4 copies of her.
Yeah. All right. Then Dan.
She's actually got good edge base, to be fair, which is more useful now than ever. That's about it. And the Explorer Collection!
I'm not even going to say what I was going to say. All right, Dan. Dupe or Airlock? Sidney La Forge, Portal 63, or Temporal Agent Daniels?
I am wholeheartedly duping Portal 63 because the only thing better than 1 Takan is 2 Takans. That's all I got.
Can't even.
Frank, I know we give you a lot of guff, but I'm legitimately sorry that you're in this position now to pick one of the remaining tier 10s.
With all glee and joy that I can find in my dying heart, filled with Crisco and French fries, I will say that I will airlock all of them multiple times, despite the fact that I actually have dupes of Captain Sidney La Forge, because she hit. It was like the Captain's Oath event, and she was it was a rerun, and she was the gold for like the rerun or something. Because beforehand it was Captain Fraser because he's casual, and I have dupes of him, and I thought I needed power for Captain's Oath. and I'm very ashamed to mention this, I would airlock her if I could airlock an immortalized crew.
I actually
That's
have
the next feature.
I have exactly one relevant Captain Sidney La Forge story, so here it goes. My old fleet admiral, Captain Ben, if you're listening, sorry to out you, buddy, but he came to my house once. Real nice guy. We sat, we talked, we drank, we ate. And I could notice he was a little fidgety, and I said, knowing that it was faction weekend, I said, if you want to get on your phone, you can. He goes, oh, thank God. He pulls out his phone. He starts doing his shuttles. And he's flipping through his roster, and I'm like, why in the hell do you have 2 Captain Sidney La Forges immortalized? I'm like, I'm not sure we could be friends anymore. So take solace, Frank, in the fact that you're not the only one in that situation. All right, the final round. All Itsins. Hain, Elon Tendro, Admiral Black, or Dysek. Cite, Dupe, Airlock. Dan, kick us off.
Yeah, so Admiral Black is just fantastic for all uses. He's got to be duped.
All right, Frank. Cite or Airlock, Dysek, Hain, or Elon Tendro.
I'm going to be a jerk. I'm going to say it's this coming up event. It's a Galaxy event. I don't want to bother scoring 130,000 victory points. So I'm going to get a 3/4 copy of Dysek, and I'm going to throw on one of my 1,000 super rare sites to him so I can immortalize him.
All right,
You're just screaming down from your ivory tower there, just going, "Ha, peasants! I have my sights."
Oh, trust me.
I don't need to
the folks who
participate.
listened, what was it, episode 2, know that these guys don't event at all. They just buy packs for the crew and then immediately airlock them. So, speaking of airlock, we have one more decision to make, Idle. Hain or Elon Tendro?
I mean, I'm gonna go into the mind of my nightmare account from the nightmare mode, and I'm gonna airlock Elon Tendro because I'd rather have the honor than have a filthy gold on my roster.
You mean a dirty
So you
command?
bought the campaign, got all these Elon Chandros right out the airlock. I'd rather have the honor.
Absolutely, yeah. Get them out of here. It's purple or nothing for me. I wear the burgundy coat.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. Episode 3 of the Big Book Podcast. Don't forget to support your local wrestling indie shows, and we'll see you next time.